r/AskReddit. Serious. People who recovered from COVID-19. What was it like? 40-year male. I live alone. Head to toe sweats. Enough to soak through clothes. 103-degree fever and sweats, then a couple hours later 101, which brought uncontrollable shivering. Nightmares. The kind a person never forgets. Burning itchy tickle in the chest. If I could have taken a deep enough breath I might have extinguished it. But even deep breaths were exhausting. Crawling to the bathroom to piss, because standing and walking meant falling over. Lethargic as an adjective falls short of how my body felt. Paralyzed is too far. Somewhere between those two. I was mostly asleep for the first 3 to 4 days of harsh symptoms. Woke up just long enough to chug water and sports drink, change clothes and bed towels, cry about all my life choices and such, take a piss, then pass out into darkness again. Fever got back down below 100 after 9 days. Took another 2 weeks to feel like I could leave my room and try to rejoin society. What a joke that was. Idiots right and left. Have stayed home mostly for the last 2 months. It sucked. It fucking sucked. I wouldn't wish it on my ex-wife, and she's a horrible person. I had surgery a week before and likely brought it home from the hospital 8 days after surgery. My neck started hurting really bad. Shoulders too. Muscle tension was also pulling on the back of my head, giving me a really bad headache. After 2 days of this I felt unwell. Dehydrated feeling, headache, heaviness in the body, zero energy. Had a low-grade fever for 2 days, 99.3, flushed with very red cheeks, confusion, couldn't come up with the right words, or speak as clearly sometimes. Then after 2 days I woke up, and was fine with no fever, and no neck ache. Didn't think it was covered though. I had just stopped taking the narcotic pain meds from my surgery and I have a history of mild withdrawal if I take anything for more than a day or two. And I have a chronic issue with my neck that I usually get a massage for twice a month, but hadn't been able to in months due to shutdowns. So basically I didn't realize something was up because I was already expecting to feel sick from withdrawal. Only discovered my error when my partner tested positive 9 days later and had the same symptoms. Doc here. PTS range from asymptomatic to dead, as you all know. Most people recover fine or have minimal symptoms to begin with, that's true. However, many people get severely ill and require significant resources to manage. Resources are finite, especially when you live in the US, which is a shithole from DC down since 2016. That means COVID PTS who need the care and medical isolation take it away from the thousands of others your average hospital deals with. Right now I'm at a hospital in Europe, away from my usual nick. This week obstetrics/gynecology shut down again, elective surgery shut down, much of onco-surg is shut down, cardiology is limited, GI is limit, and the list goes on. All because of the resources a COVID requires. There are helicopters every night flying over my house here. So what I'm getting at is that, while most people will be totally fine, enough people won't, that the house of cards get fucked for everyone else. So wear a mask, wash your hands, and if your nose peeks out from the mask then you're a fucking moron. My sister was 26 weeks pregnant when she was admitted to the hospital. 2 days later they put her in an assisted coma, ventilator and artificial lungs. They gave her an emergency C-section. They woke her up 2 weeks later. This is her text to me about coming out of sedation. I'm seriously grateful that I'm alive. Chris said that it was really scary for days and days just not knowing if I was going to pull through. It was a really traumatic experience coming out of sedation when they take you off the ventilator. The paralytic and the sedation have to wear off before they start taking tubes out, and they have to see that you are breathing on your own, but in the meantime you are restrained to the bed and nothing makes sense at all. Like I wasn't aware that I was in the hospital and I couldn't make sense of the nurses in all that COVID protection gear, so it was scary to me, and I thought I was just tied to the bed left to slowly suffocate because that's what it felt like was happening. Like I couldn't breathe, even though I was breathing. It was just intense, and it felt like it took forever for them to remove the tubes, but even after that I was still restrained to the bed, because I wasn't all the way lucid, and I still had all these other lines and tubes up my nose, and in my arms. I cried a lot because nothing was coming back to me, and there was even this big postal board my stepdaughter made me with pictures of Chris and our son, but I didn't recognize them for at least a day, and then the second day they lowered the sedation even more, and things started making sense and they took the restraints off, and then it dawned on me that I wasn't pregnant anymore, that I was married, that I had other children, and that this was a hospital. Point: I couldn't talk because the tubes messed up my vocal cords. So I was trying to find out about my son, and I was getting so frustrated that I couldn't talk, but this amazing nurse went and found me a little dry erase board, and I was able to find out about my son and my husband and the kids. It's really great that some people have little or no symptoms, but that's not the case for all survivors. This is why you wear a mask. She is 35, healthy, no pre-existing conditions, and at a normal weight. I'm on month 5 of recovery. I was hospitalized for over 3 full months, most of which was in the ICU and in a coma. I lost 80 pounds of muscle mass. I'm only very recently able to walk. 10 pounds feels like 30. I lost 7 toes. My heart rate is still elevated. I had every possible symptom and was essentially dead on 2 separate occasions while in the hospital. I haven't been able to shower in about a month because I've got casts on my legs to keep my Achilles tendons straight because they shortened from disuse in the hospital. My parents have to wipe me when I use the bathroom because I don't have the strength to do it effectively myself. This is humiliating because I'm a grown adult. People talk to me like I have an IQ of 30 when they see that I'm not very ambulatory, which is hurtful because my brain is fine. My hemoglobin level is at 11.9 and should be at around 16. I have been in a wheelchair for months and have only just started using a walker. Both my lungs and kidneys failed completely in the hospital. Sometimes I have to pee and I have to sit for 20 minutes waiting for it to come out. I'm still having recurring nightmares from the hospital. They are violent and terrifying and keep me up for hours at night. I have only recently recovered enough gluteus muscle tissue so that sitting in a normal position doesn't destroy my tailbone. I can see the outline of my skeleton under my skin. Oh, and my hair is falling out. I will probably go bald now. My fingernails didn't get enough nutrients in the hospital, and so now they are slowly falling off of my fingers one at a time. I have very little sensation of touch in my left hand, and it feels what I would imagine arthritis feels like when I bend my fingers. My favorite food also tastes bad now, which is either because of the medicine I'm on or because COVID decided to ruin that for me too. I'm on heart medication now, and I have to take blood thinners every day because my blood thickened to the consistency of maple syrup while still sick. Hospital bills are also a stressor during recovery. If I didn't have insurance, I'd be looking at 15 million, not an exaggeration, dollars of debt. Another aspect of recovery, in America at least, is that people look at me and tell me I'm lying. They tell me that masks are a conspiracy and that COVID isn't real. Tell that to my feet that have nubs for toes now because they died while still attached to me. They look at me, see the scar from the hole in my throat and from the cannula put in my neck, and try to tell me it's because of radio waves. I didn't sit through over 100 days of literal dying only to come back and be told it meant nothing and is just a ploy by the Democrats. That kind of behavior from people is honestly more mentally taxing than being told by the occupational therapist that you should be a vegetable. In addition, I look around me and all I see are people going out and partying and going to restaurants and taking photos with the mask on their chins and in general just having a great old time, like they quarantined for 2 weeks, so they did their part. It's time to go back to spreading death to the masses. Even people that are close to me. It hurts me because it's like my example means nothing to them. The worst of it all is that my own father pulls the I can't breathe through my mask thing and doesn't wash his hands, even after seeing everything that happened to me. Even worse, I'm a biologist. I've spent the majority of my adult life thus far studying the chemistry of the body and, hilariously enough, microbes. He still tells me the flu vaccine gives him the flu and that's why he hates vaccines. Even after all this, I'm still wrong about everything. So that is a personal struggle I deal with, because I had to move back into his house to get help, because I can't really get around, or cook or use the bathroom normally. Mentally I'm absolutely done with humanity. No offense to anyone, but almost every time I see one of these posts it's about how people think they live through literal hell, because they had a stuffy nose and a headache. You have no idea what I would given to have gotten snot and a headache. COVID broke my perfectly healthy body, took 2020 from me, most of my money and almost my life. I'm a living statistical anomaly. I should be just a number in the count of total COVID deaths. Wear a mask and be nice to people. The symptoms hit me all at once when heading home from work one night. I felt like I was in a sauna and my airways were closing up. By the time I got home I found out my temperature was 104. While sick I didn't want to move. I couldn't. I didn't want to eat. I begrudgingly drank water. The worst part was I did not want to sleep. I didn't want to sleep because breathing was so hard, and the few times I did fall asleep I woke up feeling like I was suffocating. So I was terrified I'd die if I fell asleep. Sitting up from laying down took all my energy and left me gasping. I feared any big movement because it would leave me gasping and almost passing out from lack of being able to catch my breath. Never mind going to the bathroom. A 15-foot walk at worst was a crapshoot as to whether I would collapse on the way there. What should have been a 3-minute activity took 10 times as long. No joke. During my recovery my dad died of COVID after being on a ventilator for a month. My mom had to hold me while I cried and try to get me to calm down because I literally collapsed because of the lack of air from crying and screaming so hard. If anyone is interested in how it killed him, I'll answer as best I can if asked. Otherwise suffice to say it was COVID-induced blood clots plus lack of oxygen leading to organ failure from what I remember being told. I blocked out a lot of the details. It took me 3 months to recover. And I say recover because I now have asthma. I have to carry a rescue inhaler with me from now until I can be seen by a specialist to see if anything can be done. I'm 100% there's nothing to be done, and my GP was just trying to be nice. Edit. I got sick March 23rd. I was cleared to go back to work in early June. I never saw a doctor in person, only over virtual video appointments. I have had the antibodies test, positive for antibodies.